Brought to you by Express Care Health and Skin Center. Get in, get out, get better.
Welcome back, everybody. Are you getting enough rest out there when you put your head on your pillow every night? Are your children? Are your parents? It's a very serious topic and should not be undervalued. And Dr. Jitka Lom is here from Express Care. We are going to tackle that very subject right now. So welcome back and thanks for being here once again.
Thank you. Nice to see you.
Okay, we always talk about, the target amount of sleep every night is 8 hours, give or take. Really easy to do in theory. Some people would say impossible to do in practice these days because everybody on Guam works hard and there's so many things to do. So what should be the target range realistically that we shoot for in terms of rest every night?
Well, I think you're right, Jason. It's hard to put that down exactly depending on the age range. But certainly for children, they need their 8 hours of sleep, if not more than that. Younger children need more, like 10 or even 12 hours of sleep. They need an afternoon nap or whatever. Once you're in the school age, children ought to be probably going to bed by certainly 8 o'clock if in the elementary grades, 9 o'clock in middle school. Our teenagers need actually more rest than the younger children. Teenagers should be getting about 9 hours of sleep. So all the kids should be getting at least 8, if not 9 or more hours of sleep. And that means a really early bedtime because here on Guam, we start school really early in the morning.
Mm-hmm. Now, why should teenagers get more sleep than the average? And then two-part question, is there such thing as getting too much sleep?
Okay, great questions. Well, as far as teenagers, they need more sleep than a younger child, like even a 10 or 12-year-old, because their whole brain is actually being rewired. New pathways are being created as they're developing their new identity, they're growing, their sexual maturity is coming along. All those things are happening, and it's a lot of growth in the brain, and it needs rest. So what we know is that kids that get about 9 hours of sleep perform better, their moods are better. This is important for parents, and their school performance is better. So actually in some school districts in the United States, they have pushed the start of school up to around 9 o'clock in the morning. They found just that 1 hour difference between 8 and 9 made a big difference in the kids' grades. Mm-hmm. So we don't have that luxury here of changing the time when school starts in the morning.
Not at the moment.
Not at the moment. So we need to get our kids into bed earlier. And one of the things that really affects us too is the LED screens, computers and TVs. So as we're watching those at nighttime, it's harder to get rest later. It takes about an hour or two for that effect to wear off. So the kids that are texting or watching TV or playing on their computers, they're going to have a harder time falling asleep.
Mm-hmm. Well, I've read a lot about, like your biorhythms, and there's maybe an optimal point at which, you're starting to get drowsy and, if you just fall asleep naturally. If you miss that, is it hard to kind of like get back into that rhythm, or do you have to catch, essentially the next wave?
For sure, yeah. You'll sort of be on your second wind, revving up again rather than going down.
Because you're not tired anymore.
You're not tired anymore, right. And so people can kind of push over that, and they do that sometimes with energy drinks or even sometimes with exercise, like push themselves through that natural need to go to sleep, and then end up sort of behind the 8 ball and very tired and not rested. And so the second part of your earlier question was, can you get too much sleep? Most people would consider that a luxury, but you can get too much sleep if you have, for example, a health problem, and you have a thyroid problem or something like that, and you're ill and you're needing a lot of additional sleep. That might sort of seem like too much, but most of the time your body will wake you up when your rest is complete.
Mm-hmm. Now, two things I'd like to cover: snoring and night terrors. Mm-hmm. Night terrors fairly known, very, very scary for people that have witnessed them.
Yeah.
Snoring is commonly associated with people that are a little bit older, maybe people that are in their mature years, but kids can snore too.
They can.
Now, what causes snoring, and how excessive can it be, and what complications could we see from that?
Okay, well, snoring is basically a turbulence in your airway, just like turbulence in a wind tunnel. You have an airway that starts in your nose or in your mouth and then passes through your windpipe here and down into your lungs. And when there's turbulence, then there's a noise. And the turbulence usually is here in the turbinates, meaning the nasal passages, or in the back of your throat where your tonsils are. So people that have a large neck, swollen tonsils, or swollen sinuses, adenoids, those type of things, they'll have a lot more turbulence, and there'll be a very loud noise as they're snoring.
Basically, air doesn't flow properly, and it hits those little bumps.
It hits the bumps, and it makes the noise. That's right. So why do we care? Well, it disturbs other people, that's one thing, but it disturbs themselves. The person who's snoring doesn't get a restful night's sleep because, first of all, there's a lot of noise. Second of all, they're not oxygenating properly. And as they're having a harder time getting the air in, there's less oxygen going around in their body, and they may have a less restful night's sleep, including things like sleep apnea, where they're constantly actually waking up because their oxygen goes down so low. And kids can have that. And many of our children, unfortunately, are a little obese on Guam, and they may snore at nighttime. They may also have allergies and be congested, and their parents may hear them snoring. And it's important to try to address that. If they have allergies, give them allergy medication, try to minimize the amount of congestion they have. And if they're overweight, let's get them exercising, let's get them to lose some weight so that they don't have these breathing problems.
Now, far be it for me to ever try to tell you how to do your job, but I'm just a simple computer guy. But I've found that I've seen people that have snored, and very, very loudly so. I've taken like little Nerf balls or tennis balls and stuff, and you just put it in their hand while they're snoring, and it just disrupts that pattern. And they stop, but you've got to do it several times a night.
That's an interesting
home
thing.
remedy.
Yeah, well, there are many home remedies for snoring, from the strips to positioning the person. Of course, if they're on their side, it might be a little better than if they're on their back. Putting something in their hand, it disrupts actually the level of sleep that they're in. They may be a little higher level of consciousness where they're gripping a ball, where they're not quite as in a deep sleep as they would be otherwise. So that's a good one. But snoring is something that should be addressed.
All right. Well, we do have a lot more to talk about getting rest. And please, everybody out there watching this, don't fall asleep, because when we return, Dr. Lom will tell us all we need to know about getting a good night's sleep.